go. Latest trends to go with the flow. Holding it in my own hand. Then I want to laugh like I lost my mind. Usually confused all the time. I can't get no satisfaction in activity. Sitting heavily like stones upon my shoulders, weighing down on me. So let's spread our wings to bigger, better things. Flying to another world, let's go. When every door was locked away, with every possibility. Okay, just another day. I'll break the wall that's in my way. I'm shooting past that limit break. I'm certain this is just a piece of cake. Just wait and see how strong I'll be. I'll reach invincibility. This is Dragon Ball Super. Just tell the gods I'm blowing them away.
Thanks for the vote of confidence, but don't oversell us, Pan. Reddit said warily, pacing over to join her and his brother while keeping an eye on Helios. Right now, you're a lot stronger than either of us. I wish I could do something, Goku agreed. I saw Roshi and Oolong on the way here. I want to fight! But this guy... Not just those two, Break said grimly. Baba, too. Pan turned anxiously to her grandfather. Did you see Dad anywhere? When you were, outside? No, Goku replied. But he just went a different way to us, right? I'm sure he's fine. We made it back after all. He gave an earnest smile, embracing her briefly. You've done so well to get this far. It must have been hard for you. I'm very proud of you. He sighed. I wish I could tell you it was all going to be okay now, that we'd handle it for you and you didn't have to get hurt anymore. No, I get it. Pan nodded. Like you said, I'm the best we've got right now. And yet, that isn't enough, Raditz said flatly. Not to be rude, but his power's a lot higher than yours. And from the looks of you, you've been feeling it. I know. She shook her head. I tried what you did, after you left. Combining the two forms. She looked up at him. I couldn't. I'm sorry. If I hadn't been too weak to do it, I might have been able to beat this guy. But now, you're putting all this trust in me, but I don't know what I can do. I've been running on false bravado for too long, and if I keep going, he's going to kill me. Then you know what you have to do, right? Raditz's voice grew stern. Try again. I can sense that combined power deep within you. You tapped into it once. Unsuccessfully, Pan pointed out. But, yeah, since I tried that, it stayed. Sleeping, I guess, inside me. I could probably try again with just that internal reserve. I wouldn't need a moon. But, she paused, looking sad. I can't. I don't think I can succeed, and even more than that, I don't want to go through that again! Break nodded to herself. So she was speaking from experience when she stopped me from trying something similar. Poor kid. Goku put a hand on Raditz's shoulder. Come on, we shouldn't make her... Raditz brushed it away. You know it's all we've got. Regardless of how unpleasant she finds it, no matter if she's your grandkid, if we can't defeat this guy, everyone dies! His eyes narrowed. I won't let that happen because you got sentimental. Goku gave a pained look and sighed. If there had been any other way. Don't worry, guys. I understand. Pan took a step forwards, calling over to Helios. It's the only reason you haven't attacked us yet anyway, right? The Shadow Dragon nodded slowly.
I was intrigued when it was suggested you could get stronger still. I gather you've decided to try?
Her determined stare was answer enough.
Then do whatever you have to, but don't make me wait too long.
We're the ones on a time limit, so don't worry about that. She inhaled slowly, trying to calm herself. It didn't work. We've lost too many people, and he's too much of an ass for me to stay calm. Well, I'll need to trigger it first. Going to be harder without a moon, even if I've internalized the feeling. I'll need my ki at its very peak, just for an instant, like the time I'd hurt Helios. One more time, just for a moment, let me go beyond my limits! She let out a sudden growl, a forceful wave of ki digging a crater around her as her muscles rippled and her body shone with new energy. There! Now, time to wake up the beast. Hello again. Helios frowned as Pan fell to one knee, clawing at her forehead, tail lashing around in a frenzy.
This is... different. It certainly seems painful. No wonder she was so reluctant to do it before.
Raditz frowned, perplexed. Shouldn't she be growing by about now? Pan stuck out a hand below to balance herself on the ground, holding in a howl of pain. Last time, when Ozaru, then Super Saiyan. Other way around this time. I should become the golden monkey straight off, I guess. Won't lose this time! Won't lose control! I'm stronger than you, beast! She felt it. The change was about to begin. But since it wasn't mixed in with the moonlight this time, and therefore unclouded by primal instincts, she felt it purely as it was. A flood of energy. Of course! Matter has to come from somewhere. So Ozaru is an increase in energy, just like Super Saiyan. It just turns all that energy into matter, which is why you get bigger and stronger, but not faster or anything. Mentally, she grabbed a hold of that flood of energy, dragging it to a halt before it could do its pre-programmed job of converting itself into fur and body mass, grasping and falling flat on her back with the enormous strain of holding such a huge well of power to a standstill. Now, let's bypass the whole mass thing, and just give me power! The internal struggle was externalized, as some invisible force lifted Pan off the ground, columns of golden light seemingly emerging from nowhere, and twisting inwards into a vortex of energy with her at the center, her body enveloped in the blinding glow. This power! I can't! Hephaestus staggered away, unable to resist the massive weight of ki surrounding the transforming hybrid. Goku shielded his eyes. Too bright! It's like being hit by a solar flare! Break had to drag her father away. Come on, idiot! It's incredible, he whispered. Don't stand so close, she insisted. Helios was trembling with anticipation.
Yes! Yes! This is magnificent! Finding all these unique fighters together in one place. Today is a day I shall not soon forget.
The light remained just as bright, but receded in volume, the glow retreating until it settled around Pan's body, continuing to obscure her features and making her appear as some kind of reverse silhouette. Gradually, this dimmed too, leaving Pan standing amidst a circle of churned up, yet solid rock. It had melted, then somehow rapidly frozen again during the transformation. Pan resumed breathing normally, opening her eyes. I tried to pull all the energy into me, adding it to my existing ki, but it wasn't 100% efficient. Some still stuck as matter, so I guess there were some physical changes after all. The others looked on, observing these changes. Pan stood a little taller and appeared slightly more muscular. More notably, dark red fur, the exact shade her hair had been in her pseudo-Super Saiyan state before, surely not a coincidence, stretched from below her waist to up past her shoulders. Her tail was now the same color, and significantly longer. Interestingly, her eyes and hair were now changed into the blue and gold visage of the standard Super Saiyan form, a look she'd never appeared in before. There was one other change, which Break quickly pointed out. Pan? She said slowly, still taking in the transformation. I'm happy you succeeded, but, you might want to cover up your top. Pan noticed that, indeed, where the fur had appeared, it had burned right through the covering fabric, and had completely destroyed her shoulder straps, making her extremely glad that only family and inhuman creatures from beyond the universe were around to see. With a slight frown and a one-fingered gesture, she telekinetically pulled the damaged garment up off the floor. I'm glad Bulma thinks of just about everything making this stuff. As if she wasn't an expert in enough things already. If the straps get damaged, you just unfold this bit, put that to there, and voila! Strapless. Having redressed, she turned her attention to more important matters. Alright, I went through all that crap to become this. It better be enough.
I too am anxious.
Helios concurred, unfolding his arms and dropping into a wary half-crouch.
I mustn't succumb to arrogance. She was formidable enough before. It should be interesting.
Pan flexed her aura, studying Helios unblinkingly for a few seconds, and then smiled. I win.
What's that supposed to...
Helios got no further, collapsing like a discarded doll, vomiting blood. Did I stutter? Pan snapped. I win.
Amazing!
Helios coughed, staying close to the ground as he tensed up to spring. He vanished from the onlooker's sight, reappearing directly in front of Pan and yelling as he forced his ki into his right fist, smashing it into Pan's face. He then gave a screech, leaping back and staring down at his broken fingers in disbelief. Pan, completely unharmed, yawned. Well, now you've given it your best, if it makes you feel any better. She began to walk casually past Helios, heading for the door.
We're not done!
Helios roared, pumping up his energy.
I still stand. I still breathe. I will never surrender.
She shrugged. But you already know the result. Might as well not bother fighting.
How dare you?
Helios marched up to her, positioning himself between her and the door.
On my honor, you will not pass through this door while I live.
His voice was cold steel. You're a fool, she said gently, sadly.
I would sooner die a fool than live on a coward.
Helios declared, raising his left arm and concentrating his ki.
Whatever new power this is, we'll have to see whether it can stand up to the heat of a star.
Pan rolled her eyes. It can, if it's only your power behind the attack. Helios swung his arm around in a wide arc, forming and launching not one as expected, but 3 fiery spheres.
And your friends?
Pan yelped in surprise as the first slammed headlong into her aura, exploding and obscuring her from view. The second was aimed for Goku and Raditz, who stood adjacent to each other, and the third flew for break, slightly to their left. Goku rapidly powered up, performing a peculiar mixing action with both hands and forming an attack he hadn't used for quite some time. Heat of a star? No problem. Nova Burst! Before even seeing that Goku had taken steps to save them, Raditz reacted on instinct, taking an instant transmission jump to directly in front of Break, who had been caught off guard and had yet to react. It was almost upon him, though he managed to turn Super Saiyan before it hit. Damn! We only just got back! What a stupid way to die. I'm not even going to be a decent meat shield. It's going to go right through me and kill Break too. My daughter. Helios relaxed, beginning to feel his injuries, and watching the triple explosions with some relief.
Finally, taken care of. Those were certainly foes to remember, though.
I told you. Pan, still standing in the same spot, flung her aura outwards to clear away the obscuring smoke and flames. I can survive anything you can throw at me. A pair of feet tapped the ground behind her as Goku touched down. Good thing I remembered that technique. It's been ages. His solar attack had still been weaker than Helios, but he'd slowed it down enough to allow himself to dodge. Helios groaned.
Did I at least kill the other 2?
Break, arms raised to shield herself, opened her eyes to find herself unharmed. The smoke cleared, revealing her father facing her, still in Super Saiyan but swaying slightly, smoke rising from his back, a pained expression on his face. The power in that attack. He shouldn't have survived it. Unless... No way. But his ki did just shoot through the roof. Sometimes I forget this, but I have awesome parents. Raditz cracked a smile. What a way to unlock this demigod ki. He tore off the burned remnants of his shirt, giving Break a thumbs up. Hell if I'm going to let anything kill you while I'm here. He spun, facing Pan and Helios. And now I've awakened to this. Care to help me warm up? He dashed at Helios, drawing his sword and making a downward slash in one smooth motion. Helios jumped sideways, Raditz continuing the attacking motion and sticking his sword into the ground, pushing off and letting go to propel himself into a jumping kick. Helios blocked with his good arm, gritting his teeth at the impact.
I wasn't expecting such strength from him. That moment of desperation really did bring out his potential.
Raditz's arm swung down, and Helios dodged back, throwing a ki that knocked the wind out of the Super Saiyan.
Your power increased a lot, certainly. But you should leave this to the girl. You're only about as strong as she was before she made this latest transformation. Still, it is impressive in such a short space of time. He'd be able to give Hephaestus and Prometheus an even battle.
Once he'd recovered, Raditz grinned. Yeah, you're probably right. Even after all the fighting you've done, I don't stand a chance at beating you. But it's pretty exhilarating, suddenly getting this strong. I had to try it out. If you've had your fun, I'm going to finish it, Pan said firmly. In the blink of an eye, she was behind Helios, gripping his left arm in both hands and snapping it in a single, forceful motion. Helios hissed, spinning to face her.
My right arm's still intact, minus a couple of finger bones. A direct punch to the face didn't phase her, though.
He swung a knife hand at her eyes, but she ducked under it, backflipping away and landing some distance from him.
I'm not beaten yet!
He insisted. You've been beaten ever since I transformed, she countered. The next blow will be the last. I'll use my full strength for the first time.
Then I'll show you my best as well. Well, I can't yet fight at faster than light speeds like the gods can. In a straight line, I can build up to speed you can't even comprehend.
He braced himself, preparing to charge.
Almost 90% of light speed. Even you can't match that!
He took off, fist clenched to strike, soaring straight for her wings, burning trails of flame through the air. 90%? Pan's eyes flicked open, and she disappeared, materializing crouched on the ground behind Helios, followed by a trail of jumbled, smashed aside light rays. I'll raise you 100. Half a second later, Helios gasped, feeling an immense tearing sensation flood throughout his chest. He flopped to the ground, spasming before falling unconscious. Pan stood, rubbing her elbow. I shattered a couple of your ribs and probably tore some other stuff. You'll live. Hephaestus approached cautiously. He did want you to kill him if he lost. Pan shrugged. I don't like him enough to do what he wants, and I don't hate him enough to kill him either. Unfortunately for him, I only dislike him enough to let him live, since I know it'll piss him off. She gave Hephaestus a stern look. We're going through. For real this time. You're not going to stop us, I assume.
No. Even if I wasn't injured, you're quite beyond my power now.
Hephaestus almost smiled.
I'm going to stay and tend to Prometheus and Helios.
Similarly, you should stay and round up all our friends, maybe take them back to the first level. Raditz suggested to break. What? Goku stepped between them. Easy break, I was about to say the same thing. But somebody needs to. And there's no easy way to say this, but... Yeah, I know, the three of you are all a lot stronger than I am. Whatever. Break turned away, sighing. Fine. But no promises I won't come after you when I'm sure they're all okay. Come on, people! Pan shouted from over by the hovering doorway. We're running out of time! Get moving or I'm going without you! Coming! Goku ran after Pan. Hephaestus gazed around at the devastated landscape.
We have been utterly defeated. I never thought I'd see Inferno Gauntlet conquered by a handful of mortals. Just who are these people?
Alpha Shenron circled Wisterion, tracking his wary movements with a hunter's eye. Come on, Wisterion, let's end it! Very well. Wisterion summoned up his energy, preparing for the final clash. No matter what you do, one of us will die here. And then, you lose. Wisterion and Alpha Shenron's attacks met again in a storm of fire and thunder. He fell back, red smearing across his vision from a cut over his eye, and threw a barrage of energy in Alpha's direction. But she dodged faster than he could follow, reappearing moments from him. He turned just in time to block her scything strike, grappling with her and trying to force her back. Gritting fiercely, she lunged forwards, a headbutt breaking his nose and a follow-up knee strike as he flinched with pain breaking his guard. Her hands snaked out, catching him by the neck before he could fall and holding him up before her. Surrender, she ordered. His body began to heat up, vibrating slightly and lit by an inner glow. You still don't understand. No matter how many times I tell you that I'll die first. He let his power fly in all directions, breaking Alpha's hold and throwing a punch that she narrowly dodged, responding with one of her own and landing a solid hit to his face. Every being has a survival instinct, Wisterion, she snapped. You spent so long running. You're no exception. You should study these mortals closer, Wisterion muttered, wiping blood away as it streamed down his face. You should know that in many species, when a mother or father is cornered, it'll sacrifice everything for the sake of its children. He feinted a lunge to the right, but she didn't fall for it, catching his leg as it swung around for his true attack. How is that relevant? She demanded, shoving a ball of sparking ki into his chest and blasting him away. Shakily righting himself, Wisterion stabilized his flight, painfully raising his guard again. I created every universe you've destroyed. The blood on your hands belongs to my children, every one of them. Now that I've decided to fight. His fading ki suddenly resurged, rocking the planet around him. No force in this world or the next can stop me while I still breathe! Stop spouting that crap! Alpha lunged in, Wisterion blocking a downward strike with some effort, and shoving her away, launching another energy wave volley to drive her back. She flew in rapid, evasive circles, swooping back around and striking him hard in the back elbow first, feeling something tear beneath the skin. Gasping at the impact, Wisterion turned to throw a counterpunch, but Alpha swung away to the side, catching the fist one-handed and shuddering slightly as she struggled to bring it up to a halt. You're still losing power, she reminded him. You clearly can't keep this up. And you, it seems, can't shut up! He snapped, feeling bones splinter in his hand as she crushed inwards. She swung her arm out, flinging him away and sending a pair of eye beams lancing after him. He brought his arm up to block, but due to the injuries already sustained to his limb, his ki flowed sluggishly up to it, and her beams bore straight through it, leaving Twin instantly cauterizing, steaming holes in his forearm, and striking him in the chest, doing less damage now, but still leaving burning tracks on his skin. Wisterion wavered, almost falling, searching for any power he had left. He swiped at Alpha, who contemptuously rose out of his path, coming back down and snapping a downwards arcing kick into the top of his head, sending him all the way down to the Earth's surface in a stream of thunder, his impact crater in the desert below visible to her even from the upper atmosphere. She followed him, unhurriedly descending to the dry ground and approaching him, throwing in a lazy stamp down onto his chest for good measure, and feeling something crack. She stepped back, smiling down at him. There. I think that's enough. Get out of this universe, Wisterian, and go about your duties. Again, he said through bloody lips, stirring. You fail to grasp my resolve. His eyes hardened. My one duty now is to the people I have failed for so long. And the Hakaishin, your proclaimed friend? Alpha snorted. He's no better than the Eternal. He and all the rest do the same on a smaller scale. Then perhaps, Wisterian said softly, this ordeal will teach them. The terror of the victim. The artificiality of this cycle you hold so dear. I hope that they will learn to break it, as I have. They are good people. Or, I know that they can be. With no warning, he sprang, releasing in an instant the strength he'd been building up as they talked, and leaping up to Alpha, locking his arms around her shoulders. And I will show them the way! Wisterian! She gasped. You don't mean to! His body hummed with building power. I will fight you to my last breath, as promised. If we both die, then so be it. My goals will be doubly achieved. She grasped his upper arms, trying to break his hold as she began to feel the heat of his rising energy. You're mad! All for the sake of these insects! I have tried to explain, but you will never understand. The time for talk is done. Wisterian closed his eyes. Let my actions speak for me. No! Alpha shrieked, sensing fully now the fearsome ki that was accumulating as Wisterian prepared to self-destruct. Not like this! So close! She flared up her own power, eyes wild. I won't let you! She thrust her hand out, the blow colliding with Wisterian's now immense aura and clashing in a storm of energy. Gritting her teeth, she pushed onwards, breaking through the barrier with an immense effort and placing her hand against his chest. None may oppose us! Not even you! With that, she fired, a wide energy beam puncturing straight through Wisterian's chest and erupting out of his back, tearing flesh and bone to shreds and arcing off into the sky after passing through. In shock, barely able to process the sensation, Wisterian stumbled 2 steps away and collapsed in the sand, blood gushing out from the fatal wound and staining the desert around where he lay. He gave a ragged gasp, face turning towards the sky, eyes blank. I warned. He got no further, shuddering and falling limp. So the creator bleeds and dies, just like anyone. Alpha's expression was initially a triumphant sneer, but it quickly turned to abject horror. No. This was his plan! If he couldn't kill me, he wanted me to kill him! Leaving aside his crap about the mortals defeating me. There may be many universes, but they are not infinite! The Eternal will... Furious, she kicked Wisterian's body, flinging it away over the dunes. You bastard! What do you gain from this? Now we're going to run out of universes! Every living thing, all will be consumed. There'll be nothing left. And then the Eternal will starve. We'll die too! There'll be nothing! Deep space. The sorcerer called the attention of the rest of the strike team. Something has come to my attention. I've been studying the negative energy buildup in this universe. Up to this point, it has been irregular, but it's smoothed out now and accelerated significantly. Which means? The hunter asked impatiently. We know the energy is being generated by the lead shadow dragon, the sorcerer explained. My guess is that until recently, the fluctuations in its negative energy output were due to it being engaged in battle. It appears to be at rest now, and is generating energy much faster. There are formidable warriors on that planet, Beerus confirmed. Likely it was them. Gohan grimaced. I hope nothing happened to them. The sorcerer nodded. In any case, it is imperative that someone engage the dragon in combat again, and soon. By my estimation, we will not reach Earth in time to stop the Eternals coming if the negative energy buildup continues at this rate. Come on, guys, Gohan thought. I'm bringing the cavalry, but you gotta hold on until I get there. You have to keep her fighting. It's all down to you now. The third level of the Shadow Dragon's tower was a dimly lit pathway of jagged rock, leading its twisting, winding way up and away to a distant square of light. The doorway out, which formed the only light source. In sharp contrast to Inferno Gauntlet's heat, the cold here was biting, especially to Pan and Raditz after the damage to their outfits. Ice crystals formed on the ground, snaking along the rocky path that seemed to hang suspended in nothingness. They were surrounded all around by empty darkness, stretching out seemingly endlessly. Well, this is different, Raditz observed. Goku came to a halt, looking concerned. Guys, before we go on, there's something I want to say. He looked down at his feet, unsure of how to phrase this. I know we've lost people today. People we care about. For good. But if we carry on all depressed like this, I'll go insane. You want us to be happy? Now? Pan asked, incredulous. Yeah. Actually, yes. Goku looked her in the eye. Being sad when they die is one thing. So is remembering them later. But staying down like this, when we're still carrying on their fight, is like giving up. His eyes shone with conviction. They wouldn't want us to be depressed, you know? We gotta give it everything we got in these battles. And, hell, if we do it with smiles on our faces, I bet those dragons will just hate it, right? I see what you mean, Pan smiled. Honor their memory, by living like they'd want us to, even now. You're crazy, Raditz laughed. Like always. You never stop fighting, even against all the pain we've gone through. Are we agreed then? Goku asked. We're going to get through this and come out smiling, no matter what happens. And we are going to win. Got it? Whatever you say, Granddad, Pan replied. Delightful. A pair of clawed feet clacked against the hard ground, signifying the arrival of a shadow dragon. Crushing your happiness once more will bring great joy to me. This one was outfitted in sculpted metallic garments of pure white, inlaid with flawless pale blue gems. Several pairs of gold bands adorned his arms and legs, and some kind of opaque-looking wraparound visor obscured his eyes, sunken into his thin face beneath vertical white spikes of hair. The name's Glacius Shenron. Who do I get to kill first? He flashed a fanged grin. I hope you save the girl for last. Male screams just aren't as satisfying. Don't hit the spot, you know. Oh, screw you and your introductory monologue already. Raditz grumbled, unslinging his sword and tossing the scabbard aside. I got this guy. Remember how you did against Helios, Goku warned. Even with your new power. Yeah, but this one isn't as tough as Helios, apparently. Raditz replied, grinning. Glacius chuckled. Is that what he told you? He raised his arms at his sides, releasing his ki in a storm of neon energy. Crackling, twisting shards of ice formed out of the water vapor in the air, assembling behind him and forming the outline of a pair of ghostly wings. Yeah. Turning Super Saiyan, Raditz's grin widened as he measured his opponent's ki. And he was right. Glacius' lip curled into a snarl. You! He jumped, lashing out and aiming to take Raditz's head off, but the Saiyan got his sword up in time to block, skidding back with the impact as Glacius continued to advance. Eventually, Raditz ground to a halt, feet digging into the precarious ground, and with a yell of effort, he threw the dragon back. Okay, Popsicle, let's dance. The two vanished in an explosive shockwave, reappearing in full-speed motion high overhead, Raditz landing a kick to Glacius' stomach and receiving a punch to the chest in return. They broke away, landing a few meters apart. Not bad, Glacius admitted, straightening up with slight difficulty. I can see why your group has made it this far. My ki is slightly superior to yours, but you have commendable skill and fighting sense, allowing you to keep up with me. Didn't figure you for the kind to give compliments, Raditz said, raising his weapon. Glacius sneered. I'm not. Allow me to finish. But your raw speed is still slightly inferior to mine. You missed something. Before Raditz could ask, his body shuddered as sheets of ice rapidly leapt up around his leg, solidifying and freezing it in place. But that's where I hit him, not where he hit me. So it wasn't his attack? What didn't I see? As his mind raced, Glacius rushed him again, Raditz exploding his ki outwards, shattering the ice and freeing himself, bringing his sword up and slicing at Glacius' face. Glacius halted, parrying the blade with some difficulty, and Raditz took the opportunity, ducking inside the off-guard Shadow Dragon's defenses, and slamming a punch into the side of his face. Glacius yelped in shock, crashing to the ground on his back. However, Raditz's attacking limb again was immediately encased in a sheath of ice. He frowned, focusing his energy in breaking free. But as before, it cost him a lot of energy. I saw something this time. I don't know what, but in the instant I hit him, there was a flash of light outlining him. I think he's right. I can keep up with him, but my eyes aren't quite fast enough to see. Whatever this is. What was worse, as Glacius climbed to his feet, it seemed that Raditz's attack hadn't done any real damage to him for some reason. Before Raditz could formulate a plan, perhaps one of his more powerful techniques, Glacius was upon him again. The dragon landed a pair of jabs, breaking open Raditz's guard, and then a final leaping kick, flooring the Saiyan and sending him sliding back over the rough gravel to his allies. Glacius grinned malevolently. Next, please. I'll do it. Pan cracked her knuckles, stepping forwards. That okay with you guys? Sure, go ahead, Goku replied casually. Just as long as I get at least one. Be my guest. Raditz groaned from below. Another volunteer so soon? Glacius asked gleefully. My, this day is wondrous indeed. I warn you though, girl, he continued as she strode up to him. I won't just kill you. First, emitting a sound like a deflating balloon, Glacius collapsed onto his back. Pan unclenched her fist, lowering it. Let's leave the rest to the imagination, she said. Nobody cares anyway. Glacius dragged himself up and backwards, retreating and waiting for his power to kick in. Any second now. Just a moment longer. Waiting for my arm to freeze? Don't bother. Pan grinned, waving her arm and demonstrating it to be fully intact. It's pretty fast, but I saw it. In the instant you're struck, an ice barrier, presumably magical since normal ice wouldn't stop the weakest Saiyan, flashed into existence. So not only do you take no damage, it freezes the opponent's attacking body part. She frowned slightly. Of course, once I saw it, I had to draw back to avoid it. Meant I pulled my punch. Never actually touched you. What? Glacius gave a start. That was just a shockwave thrown out by her fist! If she struck me for real, I'd never survive, even if my shield raised itself in time. He scrambled backwards up the path, crouching low and groveling. Stop! Enough! I could tell, just by that, you're a lot stronger than I am. I can't stop you. Go! Right, because I trust you completely. Pan sighed, rolling her eyes. What could I do, with the difference in our speeds? Glacius pointed out. You could kill me as soon as I tried. No thank you. Unlike some, I have a survival instinct. I suppose that makes sense, but I am watching you. Huh? She'd gone to walk past him, but found something wrong. Can't move? She found, to her dismay, tendrils of ice latched onto her legs and anchoring her to the ground, twisting up her spine and now growing to envelop more of her body. A few seconds to focus was all I needed, Glacius explained. That, and you to stand still. Now pay the price of arrogance! He raised his hand high into the air in a dramatic, sweeping gesture, and the rate of growth rapidly increased, encasing Pan in a solid, gleaming crystal moments later. Pan! Goku ran up to the prison of ice, hammering it with his hardest punch, but to no avail. Raditz, meanwhile, was propping himself up by digging his sword into the rock beneath him, trying to regain his balance. It's alright, Goku. I got this. Trailing off, he collapsed, snoring gently. Melting that ice earlier must have drained most of his power, plus the beating he took. Goku turned his attention back to Pan and Glacius. Maybe I can do the same to get Pan out. She can maybe take him on. Don't bother, Glacius crowed, guessing Goku's thoughts. Don't underestimate my power. There's only one being, short of a god, capable of generating enough heat and power to melt the ice formed by my strongest technique. Helios Shenron. Speaking of which, you killed that fool, didn't you? Nope, he's still alive. Goku replied, racking his brain for the solution to the situation. Of course, Glacius moaned. Of course you didn't! I hate that battle-crazed... He shook his head. He's always going on about improving himself, overcoming his limits. Ridiculous! I inhabit Heaven's Bridge, this higher level, proof that I was created a class above him, no? Actually, he is stronger than you, Goku pointed out. What do I care what you think? I'm about to kill you, and then the other two. Glacius stretched, lazily beginning to approach Goku. Goku closed his eyes. There's only one way to free Pan then. Gotta raise my ki, past its limits, and generate an attack like Helios. First off, it doesn't usually make me stronger anymore. The power's already in my base form. But we know the potential's in the Super Saiyan forms. So, for the first time in quite a few years, Goku transformed into a Super Saiyan, raising his ki to its natural maximum. And now, have to go further! He focused inward, simultaneously forming his Nova Burst attack and preparing to melt Glacius's ice. Where is it? This potential we're supposed to have. can't feel anything like it. Doubt gripped him. How am I supposed to do this? He was tempted to return to base and use the Kaioken, but resisted. That won't be enough. The demigod potential isn't in Kaioken. It's somewhere within Super Saiyan. But he stared down at the gently glowing orb in his hand. But this power, is it nearly enough? No, I'm overthinking this. This has to come from basic emotion, like when I first transformed. I better not forget, Pan's life is riding on this attack. Hell, Raditz's too. My granddaughter and my brother. I can't let them die when there's even the slightest chance to save them. That's it! He enlarged the Nova Burst, feeding more ki into it. To produce the desperation I need. I'll stake my own life on this too. He drew his arm back, concentrating his power still further. Are you deaf? Glacius asked, sounding more than a little bored. It can't be done. Focus on your own life. Hers is forfeit already. If I can't generate enough power, the blast will reflect back on me and kill me. He took a deep breath, steadying his nerves and leaping straight up, arcing back down towards his target. Pan, I'm coming through this with you, or I don't want to live through it! Glacius jumped back, shielding his eyes as the fury of a star was unleashed upon his creation. There was a great noise as of shattering glass, and he felt his control being wrenched away from his victim. What? But how? He took a couple of uneasy steps forwards, approaching the cooling crater with caution. Are you insane? Yeah. Goku staggered through the clearing smoke, breathing hard, right arm pierced by large, horribly sharp ice shards in 3 places. Not as strong as Helios' attack, but close. I'm crazy. He grunted, pulling his shard out and letting it clatter to the ground, blood flowing freely from the wound. A fool. The second joined it, smashing as it landed. And just plain stupid. He dug the final spike out of his flesh, heaving a sigh and straightening up his hunched shoulders. I don't ever want anybody to die, and I always try and smile through everything that happens. So yeah, that's pretty dumb. Makes me think I can do anything, even if it's pretty much suicide. He looked up, flashing a grin at Glacius and flexing his suddenly enormous ki. But I'll still try and live up to that stupid dream world of mine. Always. Your voice pisses me off. Glacius rushed in, swinging for Goku's head, but the Super Saiyan caught the attack in mid-flight, pulling Glacius in and driving a knee up into his chin, throwing him clean off the edge of the pathway and into the void, where he hurriedly caught himself mid-fall. Goku was already turning away and walking over to pick up Pan, who stirred and looked groggily up at him. Cold. Give it a minute. Your ki should be coming back. It'll warm you up. He walked her over to Raditz, setting her down beside him. Easy now. I got this one. He stood, sensing Glacius behind him. Ready for more? You observed my barrier, and timed your attack to counter it, Glacius noted. I suppose I'll stop using it, and save on power then. Smart move. Goku wasted no time, immediately making the first move and making to attack Glacius head on. Glacius saw through the feint, however, and just as Goku's after image faded, turned a 180 to block Goku coming up from behind, backing away as Goku pressed his attack, a rapid string of blows driving the dragon further back. Glacius broke away, putting on a burst of speed and dashing around to outflank Goku, who slid away just in time to avoid a downward slashing swipe that carved its way through the path at their feet. However, this last second dodge put Goku on the back foot, and he was caught off balance as Glacius reared up in front of him, drawing back to strike. He's got too much momentum. I won't be able to stop him with anything less than... He intercepted Glacius' charge, placing both hands on the Shadow Dragon's stomach. Kamehameha! Glacius was knocked away instantly, finding his feet and bringing himself to a halt. If that was the strongest blast you can produce, my condolences. You're weaker than I thought. Goku dusted off his hands. Save it. I've already won. What's that? Glacius grinned lopsidedly. Blood loss getting to you? I'm still standing, genius! I'll give you this chance to surrender. Goku stood firm, staring Glacius down for a few seconds before turning away, heading over towards Pan and Raditz. If you keep fighting, you're going to die. So stop, for your own sake. You! Glacius hissed, frothing with rage. How dare he ignore me! But what if he isn't bluffing? It doesn't matter. I have to kill him. If I do it fast enough, even if he has done something, it won't have time to take effect. And after expending all that energy, he can't have enough left to still be as fast as me. He flattened his hand, focusing his ki into the tips of his fingers and forming a gleaming, icy blade. I cannot be defeated by these lower order beings. Die! he shrieked, launching himself at Goku's exposed back. Goku's eyes snapped open wide. You idiot! You made it you or me! His arm whipped out to the side, and a faint glow of energy arced out, reaching Glacius's body and igniting something. Times 10. Goku said softly, and a roar of power emerged from within Glacius, bursting to the surface and rupturing his body from multiple directions at once, crushing him under immense heat and pressure. No! No! Not this way! Anything but immortal! With the final cataclysmic explosion, Glacius Shenron was no more. Goku lowered his arm, bending down to help his family up. What was that? Raditz asked wearily. Delay Kamehameha. New technique I've come up with. They stood, facing up the dark, narrow pathway. I can hit somebody with the force of a normal Kamehameha, implanting the rest of the boosted times 10 shot and triggering it later. Well, that's just one use of it anyway. Impressive, Pan said, nodding. Thanks for taking care of that guy. You feeling up to fighting now? Sure, yeah. Being frozen didn't take up any energy, but as if I wasn't cold enough already. She shivered audibly, pressing on in a hurry. Alpha Shenron sat back on her throne, feet resting on Wisterian's corpse. She frowned as she made a mental sweep of the tower. They made it to Kronos? Really? And there are still 3 of them! Calm. Now I'm not fighting anyone myself. I can focus on generating negative energy. This will all be over soon. Besides, of the Shadow Dragons under my command, I only consider 2 to be invincible. One of those, Hades, proved me wrong earlier. How about you, Kronos? The telepathy relay was instantaneous.
Alpha, you have known me longer than any of the others. Your other subordinates have come and gone, but we crawled out of the pit together all those years ago. In all that time, have you ever known me to lose a battle?
No, she admitted.
Have you ever known me to leave an enemy alive?
No.
Have you ever known me to face anyone who is capable of striking me even once?
No.
Then calm yourself. None shall pass me alive. This I swear to you, old friend.
Heaven's Bridge. This level, at least, didn't take as long to traverse as the previous one had. It only took them a couple of minutes to near the exit, even allowing for a little time to recover energy from the battle with Glacius. As they drew level with the doorway, there was no shadow dragon in front of it. And then, quite simply, there was. He had not moved there with mere speed. There was no trail of ki, and his ki was hard to miss. No blur or hiss of instant transmission or a similar technique. No glow of a magic spell or piece-by-piece assembly of shifting. He was just there. The dragon sighed.
I do so hate pausing time like that. It's just too easy. There are mortals with that capability in this universe, the product of mere genetic mutation. I am loath to place myself down on their level.
Black-clad, his pale eyes shone with an eerie light beneath his unkempt hair. Distance and space seemed wrong somehow in his vicinity, and shadows writhed around him, obscuring where his legs met the ground. In a similar fashion to the previous 2 shadow dragons, his wings were not physical, instead formed of the same shadows as they flowed upwards and spread throughout the air behind him.
I suppose I should introduce myself. My name is Kronos Shenron.
Yeah, I know. Pan stepped forwards. Remember me?
Oh, from the place we were summoned at.
Kronos nodded.
Yes. How you've grown since then, and in such a short amount of time. You're stronger than I am, I freely admit.
But you still think you can win?
Not exactly. Think implies uncertainty.
Kronos shrugged.
There is none here. I will kill all of you. Or if I don't, you will wish I had.
Careful, guys. On the lookout, Kronos put up a hand.
Don't bother telling them the abilities I displayed back then.
He smiled slightly.
I try not to use the same method of attack more than once during the same engagement. Suffice to say, I can bend and manipulate time to my whim. Please bear in mind that any attacks I use on you will merely be my tricks and toys. You cannot fathom what I could accomplish if I truly exerted myself.
His eyes flashed for a moment.
Travel far back enough in time, nudge a few particles around in precisely the right manner, an entire galaxy ceased to exist in the present.
I'm stronger than last time. Faster. Pan braced herself. He won't do what he did before, anyway. At least I hope he won't. I don't think I could bear it again. And hell, if last time it sent me all the pain I'd ever felt. If he did it twice, would it count the first time and make the second twice as strong? Hell, it doesn't matter. He's not going to use the same technique twice. Well, only one absolute. We gotta keep moving. She leaped, aiming herself directly at Kronos, hoping she could endure whatever he came up with this time. Kronos' arm twitched upwards, and he snapped his fingers. Abruptly, things got rather strange and, indeed, very confusing. From Pan's perspective, a duplicate of her appeared out of thin air, hurling towards her and crashing into her, knocking her away from Kronos. Then, the world flashed for a second, and she was now flying away from Kronos again, before crashing head-on into a duplicate of herself flying towards him, who promptly vanished. From Goku and Raditz's perspective, a second Pan appeared out of thin air, collided with the first. Then the first vanished, leaving the second sprawled on the floor, completely confused. Wait, what? Goku stared, trying to make sense of things. So, is that the real Pan?
They both were, or rather are.
Kronos replied calmly.
I created a stable time loop. She travels back in time a few seconds, just in time to collide with herself, before that second's version of herself gets sent back to do the same, leaving one of her in the present. Don't worry, they're both the same person, just at different points in the timeline. A simple trick to discourage physical assault.
He's right, Raditz admitted. That's the kind of stuff he can do when he's playing around, not to mention what he did on the lookout. We can't get close to him! I still don't really understand what he did, Goku complained. Raditz chuckled. I guess after all these years, you're still a simpleton. Oh, you understand it? Cool. So what'd he do? You see, it's complicated. Goku rolled his eyes. Uh-huh. You have no idea either. I'm not clueless, you know.
If you're quite finished?
Kronos inquired.
I was rather hoping I could get to murdering you soon. Babysitting you three is already growing tiresome.
You want to keep trying, Pan? Goku asked. Or should we rush him together?
Don't bother.
Kronos interrupted.
Having demonstrated my defense capabilities, it is now my turn to attack.
He folded his arms.
You, girl, are the only one of your group with the potential to harm me, so I shall remove you.
Fun. Pan stood, raising her guard warily.
Let's see, how to do it. Ah.
Kronos nodded to himself.
Yes, that'll work. I'll just send you forwards in time, billions of years forwards. There won't be any life left on this planet, to be certain. Not that you'd be able to return anyway.
Pan didn't wait for him to finish speaking. If I can just get the first strike and...
Be gone!
Kronos' eyes widened, glowing with an otherworldly light, and tendrils of shadowy energy burst from the ground at Pan's feet, snaking up towards her. Before they could make contact, however, Raditz barged to her side, the animated shadow striking him instead, one brushing Pan's leg as it passed. Both of them, however, vanished into a momentary vortex that hummed with dark, unfathomable power before disappearing too. Kronos shook his head despairingly.
That idiot actually saved her. She was barely affected. She'll be back in a mere few minutes, and I'll have to think of an entirely new way to kill her.
And... Raditz? Goku chanced.
He took the full force of my attack head on.
Kronos explained nonchalantly.
So he's now in the far future in her place.
Why, though? Goku wondered. I'd been just about to make the same move. She's my granddaughter, after all. Why was he so determined to get there first? Probably nothing special, just looking out for his family. He turned his attention back to Kronos, grinning. Well, no need to worry. They've already tried to get rid of us like that today. He came back before. He'll find a way now.
What are you? What's there to smile about?
Kronos demanded.
You're alone and about to die.
Am I? Goku brought his hands up, startling Kronos by charging his blast much faster than Pan had. Kamehameha!
I see. Lower overall power than her, but greater skill and energy control.
Kronos gave an idle wave of his hand, and the incoming beam rapidly dwindled away to nothing.
Useless, of course.
Okay, how? Goku had to ask, though fully aware that he might not understand when told.
If you really must know.
Kronos would never admit to himself that he loved explaining himself like this.
I greatly accelerated the flow of time your beam attack experienced. Essentially, hours rather than moments passed for the energy composing it, and in that extended time, it dissipated. I suppose I could have done the same to you and aged you to death, but I'll stick to my rule and avoid repeating myself.
Goku lowered his hands from the firing position. On the upside, it means if he does something scary, I don't have to worry about it again. Downside, I have no way of predicting what he'll do next. You are a tough one. Might just be the hardest foe I've ever faced, he admitted.
And there it is again!
Kronos wagged a finger, as if debating an intellectual point.
You're still excited! At first I found your endless optimism infuriating, seeing as I'm used to the opposite reaction. But now I'm simply fascinated, and more than a little puzzled.
He strolled in Goku's direction, still talking.
If I was in your situation, had lived your life, I would be utterly depressed, and not just at the current state of things.
What's so wrong with my life?
Your whole universe!
Kronos exclaimed.
For most of recorded history, the majority of it was ruled by a family of unchallenged despotic tyrants. Their only foes, a race almost as cruel and barbaric as their own. The Super Saiyan began as a figure of primal fear, not the warrior of hope you made in your image. And even though you intervened, it wasn't before countless planets were conquered, wiped clean of life, and sold off to fuel the Empire. And what of the few true innocents out there? The Namekians, almost eradicated by Cataclysm. The Tuffles, wiped out, the few survivors warped into twisted, empty things. The planet you call home was home to one of the finest minds in the cosmos, and it bent its mighty intellect to nothing more than petty revenge and wanton destruction. Your universe's supposed guardians, the Hakaishin, did not deign to liberate it from the grip of all these warring monsters. And when they did for once take action on something, they were easily destroyed by a creature of purest evil. And who, at the end of it all, is the strongest, the absolute authority in your universe? A childish, egotistical, self-styled god who thinks nothing more of destroying entire worlds than you do of swatting flies. That is the cold truth of your existence, that in the grand cosmic order of things, you do not matter. Individual mortals are barely worth noticing. War, death, tragedy. These are the only constants in your universe.
You're leaving out some key players. Us. Things have seemed a bit brighter around here in recent years, eh? Goku crossed his arms, staring back in defiance.
But not by design!
Kronos snapped, pacing back and forth.
To be sent to this planet, to injure your head in precisely that way. To be found precisely by the right kind of parent, to initiate your brother's change of heart. Each of these things alone is ridiculously unlikely. You and your little ray of hope are the brief, transient product of a freakish run of luck and nothing more. They are not representative of the natural order. Besides,
he continued, a gleam in his eyes,
your success was only possible because of the Dragon Balls. You would all be long dead without them. And yet even that was another cruel lie, mere means to an end for a foe greater than any you faced before. Just another group waiting to tear down everything you care about.
He was panting slightly now, having delivered this little rant.
How can you still be so damned cheerful?
Goku gave this some thought, before shrugging. Like I told the other guy, guess I'm just stupid that way. He smiled, burning his aura brighter. No matter how much dumb luck it took to produce us, we are here, and we're doing the best we can, Dragon Balls or no. So are we going to do this or what?
Very well. If you're so eager to die,
Kronos began to glow with ethereal light.
This technique will take some actual effort from me due to the precision required. So you can be proud of that at least.
I can't wait. Earth, the far future. The first thought that passed through Raditz's mind was, well, it's pretty barren, but it's still here. Does that mean the Eternal fails? No, if Kronos knew that, he wouldn't have bothered fighting us. I guess, like the other break's timeline, it's just one possible future. Either if we defeat them, or if the Eternal had never come at all. Something like that. This all passed through his head rather quickly, soon making room for the second thought. The second thought was, hold on, I can't breathe! The absence of a breathable atmosphere was the first hint as to just how far into the future he was. Had he been more of a scientist, or in less of a hurry, he might have wondered why the planet was still around at all. But he was decidedly not one of those and very much in the other, so instead focused on finding somewhere else to be. Now. A frantic scan of nearby space and familiar locations throughout the cosmos revealed one notable thing to latch onto. Namek! And Namekians? After so long! How did they survive when humans didn't? It was possible, of course, that humans or their descendants still lived on, just no longer on Earth, but again, hurry. Whatever, I'll ask when I get there. Right now. He used instant transmission, making a jump directly to the source of Namekian energy. It was indeed Namek, and what's more, he could breathe, always a plus. However, now that he had arrived, the Namekian key he had sensed was gone. What's going on here? A few minutes of quiet puzzling later, he decided to make a visual survey of the planet, flying high into the atmosphere and pulling laps around it. The search eventually yielded a distant point of light, which he flew down to investigate. He landed, with some confusion, facing a sight at once highly familiar and completely alien. This is like that dream! The one both Goku and I had! Indeed, now he paid closer attention. Namek was somewhat altered. He stood on a large, flat landmass, not the usual network of small islands and lakes. In addition, the sky was dark. He'd assumed it had been night at first, but now realized that Namek wasn't supposed to have nights. There were no clouds either, and only a very few stars dotted the nearly empty blackness. And, of course, it was hard to ignore the shining golden dragon coiled up in front of him. You, Raditz whispered. You're the one. He stared down at his hand. The dragon fist. It's been summoning you. You gave it to us in that dream. What's all this been about? A great rumbling passed down the dragon's great body as it began to stir. Its head shifted in a leisurely fashion to face him. Its eyes flicked open, fixing him with a calculating stare. My name, it eventually spoke in measured, perfectly enunciated tones, is Gamma Shenron. Deep space. Virus glanced down at Whisa's staff. It was emitting a persistent beep all of a sudden. Frowning, he held it up in front of his face. Apparently noticing that he was now paying attention, it began to hum with the pale light. He called the other god's attention, and just in time. From the orb at the head's staff, a flickering holographic image of Whis himself was being projected. Hello, priest. If you're seeing this message, he paused, as if uncertain as to whether to continue speaking at all or not. Making his mind up, he faced forwards, looking stern. Then it means I have failed. After a hard-fought battle, Alpha Shenron has killed Wisterion, the creator of the multiverse. Whatever the consequences of this action may be, will have to wait. Now, able to generate negative energy for the Eternal's arrival uninterrupted, the clock is ticking ever faster, and the gods of destruction will not make it in time unless she's engaged in combat soon. Hurry, Goku. You're our only chance now. With Raditz sent into the far future, and Pan temporarily out of the count, the only Z fighter left to challenge the Shadow Dragons is Goku. Will he be able to defeat Kronos? Even if he does, how will he stand up against Alpha Shenron, the one who killed Wisterion, the teacher of this universe's god of destruction? Only time will tell. But time is something that the Z fighters now have little of. You better hurry, Goku. Everything depends on you. What will the outcome of these events be? Find out next time on Even Further Beyond.